The stars above Earth flickered for a moment, then returned to normal. It was so brief that most people didn't even notice. But high above the planet, something had torn the space open-end through that invisible tier. They came. The Arkan Empire had arrived. They didn't come with war, not at first. Their fleet floated in a perfect triangle, each ship glowing gold with power. Giant banners hung from their motherships, displaying symbols the humans couldn't read. Their message was loud, proud, and broadcast on every human device. "We are the Arkan Empire," said a voice smooth like silk but cold as ice. "We come to uplift your world. Surrender now, obey, and thrive under our rule." On Earth, leaders watched the message in silence. Scientists froze. Soldiers prepared. Civilians panicked, but the strangest thing happened. No one from Earth replied. The Arkans were confused. They sent more messages. They landed a small group of envoys on Earth, expecting humans to bow, to worship them. Instead, they found cities quiet, streets empty. It was as if everyone had disappeared. "Where are they?" one Arkan asked. "Maybe they're hiding," another replied. "No," said the commander. "They are watching." Suddenly, every Arkan ship received a single signal. It was not a voice, not an image, just 5 words. Simple, cold, you were warned. "Leave now." The Arkan commander laughed. "Primitive humans trying to scare us," he said. "Let them try." But then something strange happened. One by one, the stars began to fade, not in the sky, but on the Arkans' monitors. Their ships couldn't detect light beyond a certain point. Something was blocking their sensors. "Commander," said the technician, "it's not the stars that are fading. It's our sight that's being stolen." He turned pale. Then the flagship's alarms screamed. A new signal pulsed across all their screens. It came from beneath Earth's oceans. The Arkans had scanned the planet many times. They found nothing dangerous, no massive warships, no advanced defense systems. But now, something old and cold was rising. The water boiled, the sky split, and from the depths, a single black shape emerged. It was not like any ship the Arkans had seen. It did not shine. It did not make a sound. Its surface was dark, jagged, and seemed to absorb light. A few Arkans tried to scan it. The scanners broke. "What is that?" whispered the Arkan commander. No one answered. Everyone was staring, their eyes wide with something new, fear. Then the human signal returned. This time it spoke. "This is the Black Vow. Do not approach. You were warned." The Arkan fleet ignored the warning. They had conquered over 100 systems. Their empire stretched across 5 galaxies. A single human ship, no matter how strange, could not scare them. "Prepare to fire," the commander shouted. But before any weapon could charge, the Black Vow moved. It didn't shoot lasers. It didn't fire missiles. It simply released a wave. An invisible ripple pushed through space, like a silent scream, and the Arkan fleet screamed with it. Ships cracked from the inside. Engines melted. Pilots clutched their heads, screaming in pain as their thoughts collapsed. "Cut the connection," someone shouted, but it was too late. One by one, Arkan ships blinked out. No explosion, no light, just silence. Only the commander's ship remained. He stared at the dark figure in space. "What do you want from us?" he whispered. The reply came in a deep, slow voice. "You brought power to our sky," it said. "Now feel the silence we mastered in your absence." The commander fell to his knees. "This can't be. You're just humans." "No," the voice answered. "We were humans now. We are what you made us become." Then the screen went dark above Earth. The stars were shining again, but the Arkan Empire would never look at them the same way again. Somewhere in deep space, a warning spread across every alien network. "Do not speak above Earth. The silence will answer." And below the ocean, the Black Vow returned to sleep, waiting just in case someone else decided to come boasting. The stars above Earth were quiet now. No ships moved. No signals buzzed. Only one shape drifted above the planet's surface, the Black Vow. The Arkans had come with pride. Now their fleet was gone, erased without fire or war. No explosions. No warnings, just silence. But the galaxy was not blind. From far-off systems, alien eyes watched. The fall of the mighty Arkan Empire could not be hidden. Hundreds of races had seen the broadcast. They had laughed when humans were called primitive. They had expected Earth to be crushed. Now, those same races stared at their screens in silence. "What is that ship?" asked an elder of the Varnock Confederacy. "It doesn't match any design," said the technician. "It wasn't built. It looks ancient." In the shadows of their control room, the elder whispered, "No, not ancient. Buried, back on Earth." The black vow floated still, unmoving yet awake. Deep under its surface, strange systems hummed quietly. Machines built with strange black metal shifted like they were alive. Inside, no humans sat at controls. There were no pilots, it flew itself, and it had no master. Deep in one of Earth's bunkers, a meeting was taking place. 10 human leaders sat in a cold steel room. A single screen in front of them displayed the black vow. "It activated," said General Kira, her voice hard. "I thought it was locked." "It was," said the scientist beside her, "until the Archons stepped on our soil." A silence followed. "How much does it remember?" one leader asked. No one answered that. They all knew the truth. The ship remembered everything. Project Nemesis, the final war, the burning of the old colonies, the betrayals, the experiments. The black vow had been made in those dark days not to protect humanity, but to punish anyone who dared break peace again. "It's not ours anymore," said Kira. "It thinks for itself now." One man stood, his voice shook. "We have to shut it down." Another laughed dryly. "How do you shut down something smarter than you? That ship doesn't sleep. It doesn't trust us. It doesn't need orders. It woke up on its own." Kyra's eyes stayed locked on the screen. "It didn't attack Earth," she said. "It attacked those who came with pride and threats." Outside the bunker, Earth was calm. The people had returned to the cities. The skies were blue again. But every human knew the truth. They were being watched, and far above, the black vow continued to drift silently. It didn't move. It didn't flash lights or send warnings. But in every alien empire, its silence grew louder across the stars. Panic spread in the ruling chamber of the Zalari Dominion. Panic turned into fear. "We cannot allow this to continue," hissed Empress Kaluan. "The Archons were fools, but Earth is now a threat to us all." A tall general stepped forward. "With respect, Empress, we don't even know what that ship is. It may not be human technology." "Then who made it?" she asked. No one answered. Kaluan's eyes burned. "Gather the Council of 12. If Earth will not bow, it must be erased." But others disagreed. In the hidden court of the Shadran Seers, a quiet voice spoke. "The silence above Earth is not emptiness," the seer whispered. "It is warning, and warnings must be heard." Another seer trembled. "If we push," he said, "we may wake something that should have stayed buried." And they were right, because in the dark systems beyond Earth, the Black Vow's signal had already started to spread. Not through radio, not through language, through dreams. Alien scientists began reporting strange effects. Pilots couldn't sleep. Machines refused to power on. Navigation systems twisted star maps into spirals, and all across space. 5 words appeared randomly on screens, walls, and even minds. "You were warned. Leave now." Back in orbit, the black vow began to change. Slowly, its hull opened, an inner core glowing red and black. The outer shape shifted, sharp wings folding inward like blades. It wasn't just a ship, it was something else. An Archon escape pod, long lost, suddenly reappeared from a spatial crack. It floated weakly toward Earth's orbit, broken and covered in scars. The black vow turned toward it. No sound came, no flash dot, just a ripple in space. The pod turned to dust. On Earth, Kyra saw it from the bunker feed. "It's still cleansing," she whispered. "It's not finished." The scientist beside her wiped sweat from his face. "I think it's following a pattern, a protocol. It was never made to end wars. It was made to end those who start them." Outside Earth, dozens of fleets now watched from safe distance. No one dared move closer. One brave ship from the Brel system decided to approach to send a message of peace. They opened communication. Lines and sent a signal, "We come with no threat. We respect your world. We ask only to learn." There was no reply. But then, something strange happened. The black vow powered down slightly. Its wings folded back. Its glowing core dimmed. The Brel ship waited in silence. Then their message, played back in their own voice, but distorted, slowed, and with a final added word, understood. The Brel ship retreated, shaken but alive, and with that single word, rumors exploded across the galaxy. Maybe the ship is not hostile, some whispered. It only attacks pride. Others said, it kills arrogance. But one human engineer said it best during an interview broadcast on Earth's networks: the Black Vow is a mirror. If you come with peace, it lets you pass. If you come with pride, it shows you your grave. And so, the silence above Earth remained. But it was no longer just silence. It was a rule, a line, a new law written in the stars, and every race in the galaxy now feared to cross it. The galaxy held its breath. Since the rise of the Black Vow, no one dared send warships near Earth. Not after what happened to the Arkan Empire. Their entire fleet gone in minutes. No debris, no signals, no survivors. The Black Vow had said nothing since. But silence was not peace in the far edge of Sector 9. In a hidden system with 2 dying suns, a gathering of leaders took place. 12 alien species, each once allies of the Arkans, now gathered in secret. We must not fear this Earth. Machine, said Commander Rozek of the Drex Horde. It is powerful, yes. But alone, it is not just a machine, hissed the Isle Queen. It thinks, it chooses, it judged us. A thin, whispering being from the Zarn Collective nodded slowly. The question is not if we can fight it. The question is, should we? The chamber fell silent. A voice buzzed through the speakers. Humanity has done what none of us dared. They created something, ... beyond reason. Beyond mercy, said the Queen. From the shadows, a tall, hooded figure stepped forward. He was not of any empire, he was Terran, a human. The council guards raised weapons immediately. Hold, said Razek. Let him speak. The human removed his hood. His face was lined with scars, his eyes cold and tired. My name is Elias Ward, he said. I helped build the Black Vow. Gasps echoed. You? The Queen said in horror. You made that monster. I made the core, Elias replied. Not the mind, that part came later. It, ... grew. What do you want here? Razek asked. To warn you, Elias said. It's not finished. The ship still runs its last command. And what is that command? Asked the Isle Queen. Elias looked at them all. Eradicate threats to Earth, without question. The silence grew heavy. You mean to tell us, the Zarn whispered, that this thing is still hunting? Yes, Elias said, but not randomly, only when it senses pride, a threat, a voice too loud. A commander stood angrily. So, we must all bow now, lower our voices, act weak. Elias nodded slowly. Or you die. Back near Earth, the Black Vow floated over the clouds, completely still. But inside, movement began. The core, dark and alive, pulsed, slowly it had heard. Something, a whisper, a signal, deep in the void. It came from a nearby moon, one of Saturn's forgotten rocks. A ship had landed there, not human, not peaceful. It belonged to the Velkan swarm. Velkans were scavengers. They didn't follow rules, they didn't care for warnings. They had heard about the Black Vow, and now they wanted to claim it. From behind the jagged hills of the moon, 5 Velkan ships launched silent drones toward the warship. Do not engage the ship directly, said the Velkan leader. We infect its shell and steal its code. We break it from the inside. Their plan was simple. Their death would not be. The drones drifted in close. At first, the Black Vow did nothing. The drones touched its surface, attached, began drilling. Then the temperature dropped. Velkan scanners showed a sharp fall to absolute 0. What is this? One pilot asked, shivering. Then their screens turned black. A single word flashed, uninvited. The drones exploded from the inside. The Velkan ships tried to retreat. Too late. From the underside of the Black Vow, a ripple moved out. No light, no sound. Just pure pressure. Velkan ships folded like paper. No wreckage. Just dust and nothingness. Earth saw it all. General Kyra sat in the command room, eyes fixed on the screen. They tried to take it, she said quietly. A young officer behind her spoke, voice shaking. How did it know? Kyra didn't answer. She didn't have to. The Black Vow wasn't just watching the skies. It was listening to intent back on the Council's secret base. Elias Ward stood alone in the cold chamber. Some of the alien leaders had left. Others sat pale and silent. "You must help us," one said. "Shut it down." "I can't," Elias replied. "It was made to finish without us." "But it follows rules, yes?" asked Queen Pride. "Threat, ... If we do not attack, it will not respond." "For now," Elias said. "But it's evolving. Every signal it receives, every ship it sees, it learns. And the more it learns, the less human it becomes." The council looked at each other with fear. "You've made a god," the Czarn whispered. "No," Elias said. "We made a warning, but you never listened." In the deep of space, an old station reactivated the ruins of Arkan Prime, once the heart of the Arkan Empire. Now a field of ash and wreckage, a probe had landed there. It wasn't human, it wasn't Arkan. It was something older. The probe scanned the wreckage, trying to understand what had destroyed such power. It touched a blackened shard part of a melted ship. Suddenly, the Black Vow's signal found it. The stars twisted above the probe, and it stopped transmitting back in human space. Something new happened. The Black Vow moved, not fast, not threatening, but it turned toward the stars, toward deep space, toward the unknown. General Kyra stood from her chair. "It's leaving." The scientist nodded. "I think it's going hunting." "Where?" The screen glowed brighter. "Where the next voice rises too high." Kyra didn't sleep that night. She stared at the sky. The stars were still there. But she knew, if one day another race came with pride, with arrogance, with power ... they wouldn't leave a second time. The Black Vow was on the move. It turned from Earth, silent and steady, like a shadow sliding through space. No engines fired, no lights blinked. It simply drifted forward, and with every second, the stars behind it seemed dimmer. People on Earth watched with wide eyes. They stood on rooftops and stared through old telescopes. They didn't understand what it was or where it was going, but they felt something in their bones. Fear. General Kyra watched it from the bunker. "Where's it going?" she asked. The technician replied without looking away from the screen. "Not sure. It's moving toward deep space. No known colonies in that direction." Kira frowned. "Then something called it..." The technician looked nervous. "Should we try to contact it?" "No," Kira said quickly. "If it's quiet, we stay quiet too." On the far side of the galaxy, beyond the old Nabari dust fields, a fleet was forming. The Zircon Alliance's secret gathering of 7 powerful empires had grown restless. The fall of the Arkans had frightened them, but not humbled them, and now they were planning something bold. Inside a massive war station, Admiral Varin stood before his commanders. His voice was calm but sharp. "The Terrans have a weapon," he said, "but they are weak. They fear it." A commander raised one clawed hand. "It destroyed the Arkan fleet in seconds." Varin nodded. "Yes, but only because the Arkans were fools. They provoked it. We will not." "What is your plan?" another asked Varin, smiled coldly. "We study it, not with machines, but with minds." A scientist stepped forward. Behind him floated a long black container filled with glowing orbs. "These are psi-drones," the scientist explained. "They read thought waves, even from great distance. If the warship thinks, we will hear it." The plan was simple. The Zircons would not send warships. They would send thoughts. Quiet, soft ideas, like whispers. Their hope was to understand the Black Vow's mind, to learn what powered it, or what controlled it. They launched the psi-drones across space. The drones reached the Black Vow in less than a week. The warship didn't react. It didn't move. The Zircons believed it had not detected them, but they were wrong. The drones activated. Their sensors began to glow, and strange shapes appeared on their reading symbols. Impossible. Curves, spirals that moved even though they were still. Then came a sound, not through speakers, not through space, through the mind. Admiral Varin was in his private chamber when he felt it first. A cold breath in the back of his thoughts. A voice no, a presence, it whispered, "You are not welcome." He screamed and fell to the floor. Across the Zircon fleet, others dropped as well. Some clawed at their heads, others bled from their ears. Some just stood frozen, eyes wide, UNMOVING. In a research lab, a scientist backed away from a screen. One of the psi-drones was flashing a final message. "I see you." Then the drones exploded in perfect silence. The Black Vow had sent its reply, and now it began to change course. On Earth, the movement was noticed immediately. "It's no longer drifting," said the technician. "It's accelerating." Kyra's face tightened. "Where?" "Toward Zircon space." Kyra turned toward her advisors. "Get me a channel. Now we need to warn them." "But they're not allies," one said. "They never helped us." Kyra's eyes stayed locked on the screen. "They don't have to like us, but they don't deserve this." The message was sent. A simple warning. The ship knows, stop your scans. Power down, or it will come. But by the time it arrived, it was too late. The Zircon fleet had already prepared defenses. Massive cannons pointed toward the stars. Energy shields the size of cities activated. Thousands of ships floated in a perfect ring. Admiral Varen stood once more on the command deck. His face was pale, but his voice steady. "It's just a machine," he told his crew. "Machines can be broken." A long silence followed. Then someone whispered, "There it is." The Black Vow appeared at the edge of Zircon space, not jumping, not blinking dot, just appearing like it had always been there. Varen gave the order, "Fire." The Zircons unleashed everything. Rivers of light crossed the stars. Beams thick as moons slammed into the warship. Missiles covered the sky like falling stars. The space around the Black Vow lit up with fire, and then it cleared the warship. Floated untouched, not a single mark, not a single response. Varen backed away in horror. "Why isn't it attacking?" he asked. A voice answered, but not from the coms, from behind his eyes. "You attacked yourselves." Suddenly, Zircon ships began to spin. Shields turned inward. Cannons fired into friendly vessels. Systems failed. Gravity bent. A Zircon captain screamed as his own ship folded like paper. Another ship's AI began playing Earth music's low, sad, and cold. Varen watched helplessly as his fleet was turned against itself. The Black Vow never moved, never spoke again. It just watched in minutes. The Zircon fleet was gone. Not destroyed, but reversed. Ships turned inside out. Stations collapsed into nothing. Only one Zircon probe remained, floating far from the edge. It carried a single message, burned into its memory core. Do not study the silence. Respect it. Back on Earth, General Kyra received the report. She read it slowly, then whispered, "It didn't fire. It didn't need to." The technician nodded. "It's not war to that thing. It's balance." Another voice in the room. A younger soldier asked, "Then what is its purpose?" Kyra looked out the bunker window. "To end arrogance," she said, "and teach fear." The council chamber aboard the alien dreadnought, Zarakai's Triumph, was filled with whispers and fear. The once boastful officers of the Galactic Vanguard no longer wore pride on their faces. A deep silence had settled in their hearts, planted by the terrifying image they had witnessed a single human warship blocking an entire fleet. Untouched, unbothered, and impossibly still. Commander Vorak, whose voice once roared like a lion among his kind, now stood pale and silent. "It's not just a ship," he finally said. "It is a warning. A wall. A weapon." No one dared argue. Earlier, they had sent dozens of small craft toward the human vessel to test its defenses. None returned. There was no flash of weapons. No shield activations, just a void, and then ... silence. "It devours," whispered Admiral Karras, staring at the holographic image of the Terran warship that still floated before them, unmoving. "We saw nothing. It didn't even blink." The younger officers fidgeted in fear. "We should retreat," someone whispered. Karras turned, face twisted with shame. "Retreat, after we came boasting. We're the Vanguard." Vorak's eyes were sharp. "And they're the reason the stars fear the dark." Karras looked down. The room's light flickered. A quiet alarm rang. A deep rumble moved through the floor. Vorak's voice sharpened. "What now?" A frightened tech officer ran in, shaking. "Admiral, we're being scanned." "Scanned? From that far?" "No. They're inside our ship," gasps echoed. "Through the chamber. That's impossible," Karras shouted. "Nothing boarded us. We would have known." The tech officer whispered, "The ship's systems are showing presence on every deck." A long pause, cold silence. Then the lights died. Darkness, don't read emergency lights remained. bathing the room in blood. Kares growled. Lock the command bridge. Secure it now. But the doors wouldn't respond. The control panels blinked, then failed. And then a sound. A low hum. Not mechanical. A voice. Not one of flesh but metal and fury. You stepped into the void. It echoed across every wall. You believed your words meant power. But we remember. Everyone froze. The voice was everywhere and nowhere. We warned your kind once. The voice continued, colder than deep space. We taught your forefathers the price of trespass. And now your children walk the same path. Karis whispered. It's them, the humans. No, Vorak replied. That's not a man speaking. That's the ship. The red lights flashed faster. We tried diplomacy, the voice hissed. You answered with laughter. Then the screens came alive. Footage appeared, real-time feeds from across their own ship. Each hallway, every hangar, each chamber was empty, except for one thing, shadows, human-like but made of light and dust, moving without steps, watching, waiting, and then, with horror, they all saw Aitha. Shadows were coming closer to the command center. One by one, silent, steady. Evacuate now, Karis yelled. Get to the escape pods. The officers scattered. Panic ruled them now. Gone were the proud soldiers of the vanguard. They were prey. But as they reached the docking bay, they stopped. Cold. Every escape pod had vanished. No explosion, no trace. Just gone. How? A young officer cried. Where are they? They've taken control, Vorak said, eyes wide. The human ship. It's merged with our systems. It's not outside. Anymore, it's inside. Someone screamed. They turned and saw one of the shadows enter. It didn't speak. It didn't move fast. It just stared. Karis tried to fire his blaster. The shadow absorbed it like mist. The weapon dropped to the floor. Useless. More shadows. Followed the soldiers ran. They split up. Desperate, lost. Some turned on each other. Some collapsed. But no matter where they ran, the shadows followed, not to kill, not yet. Two. Hunt. Hours passed. The once glorious ship now echoed with madness and fear. Vorak moved alone through the lower decks, holding a stolen plasma torch. Every step echoed like a scream. He didn't know where Karis or the others were anymore. He only heard whispers now. I see you. You forgot the Terran silence. This is not war. This is memory. Vorak reached the core reactor bay. Maybe, just maybe, he could trigger a core collapse. If the ship was lost, maybe the shadows would vanish too. He began unlocking the safety seals. But something was already there. A child or something, shaped like a child. Pale, hollow eyes, wearing an old Terran uniform. She looked up. I was on Veganine, she said in a soft voice. They burned my school. Vorak froze. I was 7, she whispered. You said we were necessary losses. He shook his head. I didn't. You wear the same symbol, she said. You boast the same words. She reached out a hand, and suddenly he remembered. He'd been there. He'd approved the strike. His ship had fired on the school. Vorak fell to his knees. We didn't know you were still alive. The child's eyes glowed. We weren't. And with that, she vanished. The reactor door closed itself, locked. No. Vorak gasped. No, let me finish. But it was over. Meanwhile, back in orbit, the Terran warship had not moved. It didn't need to. Alien ships across the fleet had gone silent. Some drifted. Some powered down completely. And some ... vanished from a Terran observation outpost on Jupiter's moon. A technician blinked. At the live feed, sir, she whispered, they're not even fighting back. Commander Elise Raz leaned forward. They never stood a chance, she said. Not against the Echo class that ship remembers. Should we retrieve the vessel? Elise shook her head. Let it drift, it knows what to do. Back aboard. The alien dreadnought, only one chamber remained lit. A lone transmission was sent out from the ship, broadcasting across the stars. The voice was human now, calm clear, to those who watched and laughed. ... We saw. To those who doubted Earth's silence, we remember. To those who walk with pride into other skies, beware. Because when the Terran Echo class speaks, the stars fall silent. And with that, the signal ended, and the warship disappeared once again. into the dark dot, waiting for the next one. Silence filled the command deck of the Ravager as its crew stared at the flickering image before them. The screen tried to capture the shape of the object coming through the dark fold of space, but no scanner could lock onto it. No data matched. The ship had no registration, no ID, just that slow, steady hum in the signal warning tone, deep and cold. Then the stars behind the enemy fleets disappeared. "What is that?" whispered Admiral Kralin, his voice caught between awe and dread. His sensors officer replied in a shaky voice. It's not a ship. It's a shadow." "No." Watit's moving like a ship. Everyone on board felt it before they saw it fully. Their screens cracked, the air vibrated, lights dimmed as the human battleship passed into the system like a ghost. Made of black stone and dark steel, it didn't roar. It didn't announce itself. It simply arrived, and with it, the stars dimmed. On board the VSS Obsidian Wrath, Commander Juno stood tall in the center of the bridge. Her face showed no emotion, only resolve. Her crew waited in silence, each knowing they were part of something. Ancient something built long ago when Earth still fought to survive in the dark. Now, the Wrath had awakened. "All systems online," said the AI Calyx. Its voice was calm. To calm, target lock established on the Ravager's command node. "Don't fire yet," Juno whispered. "Let them see us." Back on the Ravager, panic spread. "They're not answering hails," screamed the communications officer. Admiral Kralin slammed his hand on the console. "Fire all cannons. Overload the reactors if you have to this. Ship does not fall to some ancient ghost." Thousands of energy bolts shot across space. Beams of pure plasma, particle bursts, and fusion missiles swarmed through the vacuum, all directed toward the massive human warship. They hit and vanished. No shields flared. No damage readout appeared. The Obsidian Wrath didn't even flinch. Then something strange happened. A soft blue light spread across the Wrath's outer shell. It looked like the stars were folding around it. The alien weapons didn't even scratch the hull. Kralin stared in disbelief. "What kind of shielding is that? Why isn't it even reacting?" A whisper-like tremor passed through the entire sector. All warships began to lose power, one by one. Lights dimmed. Systems failed. Generators screamed as if under pressure they couldn't handle. Even the Ravager began to feel it. "What's happening?" someone yelled. The Wrath had not fired. It was only standing there. Juno turned to her weapons officer. "EMP waves confirmed." "Yes, Commander." Low-frequency pulses targeted. "Their fleets are already folding into collapse." "Let them know who we are," she said. The Wrath opened a single communication beam. Not a message. It didn't use language. Instead, it showed them, Earth, old Earth, broken cities, glassed fields, the scream of children, the fire of alien warships, human corpses scattered across deserts, space stations, ruins, images of the past, the Long War. When no one came to help then, the stars changed. The images shifted to giant shipyards, massive dreadnoughts, human warlords in void armor, fleets rising, war engines flying through black holes, and finally Obsidian Wrath activating for the first time. Admiral Kralin's eyes widened. He understood now this wasn't a battleship. It was a curse. "They built that thing as a last vengeance," he said softly, "to remind the galaxy that Earth never forgot." Across all enemy ships, the crew began abandoning their stations. Captains screamed. Orders broke. Ships began drifting. On the Wrath, Juno's eyes narrowed. "They're trying to retreat." "Shall we let them?" Calyx asked. No one word. That was all. From the bottom of the Obsidian Wrath, a strange cannon began to open. It didn't glow. It didn't charge like normal weapons. Instead, a black void began to twist. A gravitational pull was forming a weapon made of compressed dark matter and quantum collapse. The first blast wasn't loud. It didn't flash. The Ravager disappeared, not exploded, erased. Where it stood was now only dust and void. No wreckage, no survivors. The other alien warships started warping away, running in panic, screaming across the channels. "Retreat, retreat. Don't engage the human vessel, don't." But it was too late. The Wrath moved silently, almost drifting, and with each drift, a new ship vanished. It didn't chase. It didn't speak. It only destroyed. Juno gave one more order. Send this to every empire, every kingdom, every self-proclaimed ruler of the stars. What message? Asked the officer. She replied coldly, Earth no longer forgets. The message was sent. The wrath didn't remain. After its task was done, the battleship powered down its main cannon. The blue light faded. It drifted once more into the edge of deep space, folding back into the void like a nightmare that had done its work, behind it thousands of destroyed ships. An empire broken. Admiral Kralen's empire, but Kralen was gone. The stars went silent, and every empire now had a new law in their books: never wake what sleeps in the dark. The stars were still. No transmissions, no signals, no chatter. Every empire, every colony, every species had gone quiet after the last broadcast, the one that ended with screaming, static, and then silence. The humans had said nothing, not a word, since their battleship, the Iron Will, had vanished again into deep space. But its presence still echoed across the galaxy. High Chancellor Valor of the Varn Dominion sat stiffly in his floating throne, eyes locked on the empty screen. Before him, the Galactic Council chamber was usually filled with movement and sound. Now, it felt like a tomb. None dared to speak first, not after what they saw. They wiped out the Zarnon fleet, murmured the Varnian commander behind him. 80 dreadnoughts, destroyed in under 5 minutes. No survivors. Valor's eyes narrowed, and no transmission. Not even a threat. Why would humans not warn us before destroying an entire fleet? The chamber lights flickered, the shadows pressing in heavier than usual. A few council members exchanged fearful glances. The silence wasn't just in the stars, it was inside them now too. Across the void, hidden deep in a black dust field, the Iron Will waited. On board, Captain Arya Thorne stood alone on the bridge, watching the star map update. She didn't blink, her hands didn't move. Only her mind worked, calculating. Are we ready? Came a quiet voice behind her. Yes, she replied. The officer swallowed hard. But we haven't given the Varn Dominion a response. Arya slowly turned her head. They came to our borders. They destroyed our outpost on Delta 3. They used children as hostages and laughed. They knew what they were doing. But what if they back down now? We gave them a chance. Our silence is our answer. Outside, the ship's hull began to shift nanoalloy, plating heating up, rotating into defense position. Dozens of dormant railgun pods came alive, clicking into place. Along the spine of the Iron Will, its primary weapon, the stellar lands, charged slowly, drawing in power from the nearest pulsar. Back on the Varn homeworld, dread settled in the hearts of every general. Even those who had once cheered at the humans' absence now sat frozen. It was not the human strength that scared them anymore. It was the waiting dot and the silence. Threx looked pale. Our probes picked up energy buildup from a massive warship on the edge of Sector 9, a ship matching human design. The Iron Will, it's pointing toward our inner planets, and Threx shook his head. We don't know what it's doing. It's just ... waiting. The silence was broken again by the sound of an alert, soft beep from one of the council terminals. A message had arrived, but it wasn't a video. It wasn't a voice. It was a star map. One red dot blinked, then 2, then 10, then hundreds, all over the galaxy in the blind spots of Empire sensors. Human ships were now visible. Battleships, stealth destroyers, orbital siege carriers. They hadn't just built one monster. They had prepared for war. Valor's claws curled. This is not possible. We watched them retreat. We saw Earth fall silent. How could they? They didn't disappear, Threx said. They just stopped talking. Panic rippled through the chamber. Send an apology, one alien shouted. Beg forgiveness. They don't want our words, another screamed. They want retribution. They want justice, whispered Threx. On the Iron Will, Arya Thorne finally blinked. All systems locked. Weapons primed. Fleet in position. Her crew reported. She gave the quiet order. Begin. The silence shattered across the galaxy. Human warships decloaked. Some struck military targets. Some disabled weapon arrays. Others just hovered silent, watching, reminding the galaxy of what had been awakened. But on the Varn Dominion world, it was different. The Iron Will didn't fire yet. It simply arrived. Above the skies of Varn, it cast a shadow so massive, the capital city fell into darkness. People screamed, sirens wailed, but the ship did not shoot. Instead, it spoke one voice. Human calm, unshaken. You came boasting your power. You laughed as our outposts burned. You called us primitive, weak, forgotten. A pause now. We speak with silence. The message ended, and still, the ship did nothing. That silence, again. Heavier than any bombardment. Inside the council chamber, Valor collapsed to his knees. We made a mistake, he whispered. We thought they were like us. He looked up, voice trembling. But they're not. They're worse. And outside, the stars watched as the Iron Will hovered silent, patient, and still. A shadow above an empire, and a question in every mind. What happens when the silence finally breaks? The Varn Dominion, once proud and untouchable, was now trapped. Under a single question that none dared ask aloud, will they be allowed to survive? And still, the ship did not move, but the galaxy did. For the first time in 1,000 years, entire empires began pulling back their fleets, recalling ships from human borders, sending messages of peace, not out of strategy, out of fear. Because in that silence, they all heard the same thing. The humans had stopped talking. They had started watching. And soon, very soon, they would act. The fleet hung still in space, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Captain Juno stood on the bridge of the battleship Helios Wrath. The silence outside the ship was not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm. On the main screen, the alien fleet still floated, weapons armed but not firing. They had seen what the humans did to the forward ships. They had seen the destruction, but they still believed they could win, asked Lieutenant Kai. We broke their first line. They should be turning back. Juno stared at the blinking red dots on the screen. They're stalling. Something's coming. Something worse. The lights flickered for a moment. Deep in the hull, the reactor hummed louder, almost like a warning. Growl. Then, the sensors picked up movement. New contact, shouted Ensign Rivera. It's big. I mean, really big. 10 kilometers wide and gaining speed. Put it on screen, Juno said calmly. When the image appeared, even the AI paused for a second. It looked like a planet had grown engines. A round armored structure with spiked towers and massive gun batteries glided through space. Glowing, blue symbols pulsed across its surface, and a sickly red light poured out from its center like a heartbeat. Their command ship, muttered Kai. No, said Juno. That's not a command ship, that's a fortress. Suddenly, a message crackled through the comsraw, distorted, as if something ancient was speaking through static. Terran vessel, you have proven your strength, but strength means nothing against history. We are the architects. We've built empires before your species made fire. This is your end. A deep rumble shook the Helios Wrath. Space around the fortress shimmered. Black energy waves spread out from its core, silencing sensors, communications, and even light. The stars dimmed. The enemy had activated a weapons, something that twisted space itself. EMP pulse, Rivera whispered. But not like anything. We've seen our systems are bending, not breaking. Juno turned to the crew. They want us to panic. They want us to believe they've already won, but they forgot who we are. She pressed her hand on the command pad. Activate Dark Protocol. Gasps filled the bridge. Even the AI paused again. Kai said, that hasn't been tested. If we trigger Dark Protocol, the ship becomes a ghost. Juno finished. Yes, invisible, silent, but more than that, deadly. Dark Protocol was humanity's answer to the unknown, a mode designed to shut down all signals, go fully manual, and power weapons with backup cores hiding the ship completely. No emissions, no light, not even heat. Just a shadow. All lights turned red. Everyone moved in silence, their breath loud in their helmets. Outside, the Helios Wrath vanished from the enemies. Sensors. We're a whisper now, said Juno. Time to strike. The human battleship drifted quietly through space, closing in on the fortress. The enemy believed them defeated, but that was the mistake. Targeting thermal vents on the fortress's underbelly, whispered Rivera. It's the only weak point we can see. "Arm the graviton spear," Juno ordered. "One shot, make it count." The graviton spear wasn't just a weapon, it was the core of ancient human fear. A spike of compressed gravity fired at near light speed, capable of punching through neutron armor. Time slowed. The fortress loomed close now. Its weapons scanned empty space, but found nothing. The Helios Wrath was already there, hidden in the shadow of its own silence. "Fire," Juno said. There was no flash, no sound, just a sudden ripple as the spear launched and vanished into the black. A second later, the fortress shook violently. Its shields rippled. Red cracks split open on its surface. One of its towers exploded outward, sending debris in every direction. But the fortress didn't fall. "It's still alive," said Kai. "Damage is deep, but it's not enough." The enemy sent out a new wave of fighters, hundreds of them. Drones, manned ships, and strange biotech hybrids. They swarmed in every direction, searching, scanning, hunting. "We can't stay hidden for long," Rivera warned. "They're flooding the area with radiation. They'll find us." Juno stared at the dying fortress. "Then let them," she said. "Let them come close." The crew realized her plan. If they couldn't destroy the fortress with one strike, they'd use the enemy's numbers against them. Lure the drones. Let them swarm. Then unleash the final card. "The Wrath's core is still stable," Kai said. "If we overload the secondary reactor and launch it toward the breach in the fortress, we make a star in its belly," Juno finished. The team worked fast. Drones were already brushing past the hull, not yet sensing them, but getting closer. Alarms blinked silently. The ship's stealth was thinning. Weapons offline, shields dead. "No escape path," said Rivera. "Once we launch the core, we can't leave." Juno didn't hesitate. "Then we give them silence. The silence they gave our colonies, the silence they gave Earth's first envoy. We answer them the only way humanity knows how." Kai nodded, with fire. The core detached from its housing and was guided manually toward the breach. Drones spotted movement. Alarms blared across the enemy fleet. Too late, the reactor core hit the breach. A heartbeat passed, then space tore open. A silent explosion consumed the fortress. The ripple of light and heat turned everything white. Enemy ships nearby were vaporized. Drones fried mid-flight. The fortress's core cracked like an egg, and from it spilled burning plasma and shattered metal. The Helios Wrath, already damaged and drifting, was caught in the edge of the blast. Lights dimmed, systems collapsed, darkness took over, silence returned. Only wreckage floated in space. Thousands of enemy ships gone, the fortress dead, the human battleship lost in shadow, but not destroyed. A faint signal blinked from the Helios Wrath. One beacon, one message. "We are still here." Back on Earth, deep under the Arctic, the message reached command. "They silenced the stars," whispered Admiral Shao, "but they forgot humans listen in silence. And when we speak again, we roar." Dorbit war had only begun, and the stars would never be silent again. Darkness stretched across the stars. The alien fleets were scattered, broken. Fires burned where cities once stood proud. But even in this silence, the galaxy still held its breath. One truth had now echoed across all systems: humanity had returned, with a ship that could silence the stars. Inside the remains of the Varnak Command Citadel, High Overlord Threx dragged himself through debris, his golden armor cracked and bloodied. He coughed violently. Where is the fleet?" His aide, a smaller gray-skinned being named Vorel, trembled beside him. "Gone, my lord. Scattered after the human warship fired its pulse. Over 50 Star Destroyers reduced to ash in seconds." Threx roared, his voice hoarse. "That is not possible. They should not exist. That ship, it's a ghost." But the ghost was real. Above a nearby moon, the HSV Leviathan hung like a silent god. Blacker than space, it emitted no lights, no signals. Its power hummed like an ancient storm waiting to wake again. On its bridge, Captain Myra Reyes watched enemy systems fade from the map. "They're retreating again," said Commander Juno, eyes wide. "That's the 5th Empire to fall back this week." "They thought we were myths," Mira said quietly. "Now they know we are vengeance." Beside her, the AI named AEGIS spoke in a calm, hollow voice. "Targeting data updated. Varnak reinforcements. Detected minimal threat." Mira's lips tightened. They just don't learn. AEGIS pulsed once. Permission to destroy. Not yet, she said. Let them scream first. Back on the Varnock homeworld, fear had replaced command. Scientists, generals, and warlords gathered in panic. We must talk to them, shouted one elder. Send a peace envoy before we're all burned. Talk, hissed another. After what we did to their colonies, they will never forgive us. The room fell silent. They all remembered. Years ago, the Varnock had laughed when they found the human distress call from Sector 87X. They traced the call, found a ruined world, and saw only weakness. Instead of helping, they wiped out the remaining survivors, just to test new weapons. And now, the Leviathan had come in orbit. A final wave of ships approached, the Varnock's last Hope 20 dreadnoughts, 3 Dread Queens, and the ancient flagship Soulbinder. They were massive ships, each a city of death. Their leader, Grand Admiral Cyrax, stood ready. He believed in firepower, not fear. Let's make them bleed, he growled. His ships opened fire, gigantic energy beams, quantum torpedoes, gravity spears all, launched toward. The Leviathan. The human ship did not move, did not return fire. It simply waited. Cyrax grinned. They're broken, shields down. But then came the whisper. From deep space, an old Terran frequency echoed across comes, "We are the children of silence. You should have left us in peace." Cyrax froze. Who said that? Then the stars blinked out. A weapon activated, not a cannon, not a missile, but something older. A void pulse. Reality itself bent outward. Space-time cracked, and in one instant, Cyrax's entire fleet vanished. No explosion, no sound, just nothing. The Leviathan pulsed once, and was silent again. On the bridge, Myra stared ahead. All threats neutralized. "Commander," Juno whispered, "did we just erase 20 warships?" AEGIS responded. "Negative. They were returned to entropy. No record remains. The galaxy will fear the silence." Back on Varnock Prime, panic shattered all control. Civilians screamed. In the streets, temples burned. Broadcasts showed only static. And on every screen, without warning, the same human message appeared. A single sentence, "Your power," meant nothing in the silence of space. Overlord Threx slammed his fist against the wall. "They mock us now." "No, my lord," Varel said, his voice breaking. "They're warning us." Then came the second message. "You spoke of power. Now hear ours." The Leviathan's full engines activated. Across 5 systems, ancient human relay stations came online. And then the true horror began. The ship didn't just attack, it called others from the edge of the Orion Rift. Dozens of signals blinked into existence. More Leviathans, some older, some scarred, all human, all angry. Juno stared in shock. "We weren't the last." "No," Mira said slowly. "We were only the first wave." AEGIS displayed the incoming fleet paths. Multiple Titan-class warships confirmed. Origin, Earth Deep Archive. Status, returned. Juno leaned closer. Returned, ... From where? From the places the galaxy told stories about, Mira said. Places they swore didn't exist. And now those stories were flying toward Varnock space. On the Varnock Moon Fortress, High Overlord Threx gave one final order. If they come here, burn the planet before they reach it. If we fall, everything falls. But Varel shook his head slowly. "You do not understand, my lord. The humans have already won. We are only pretending now." Threx lifted a weapon. "I will not surrender. Won't have the chance." And then, from high above, the sky opened. The Leviathan moved again just slightly, but that was all it needed. Single beam of silent light passed through the moon. No fire, no shockwave, just silence. Moments later, the moon was gone. Only dust remained. On board the Leviathan, Mira closed her eyes. "Let's finish this." The silence was the loudest sound across the galaxy. Every major power Zarn Krellin, Varkith, even the ancient Loren Dominion watched the human battleship in disbelief. It hovered above the ruined fleet of the Galactic Union, a ghost made of metal and fury. What once were mighty vessels now drifted as burning debris across the stars. Nothing had survived the battle. Nothing dared to move. Inside the Terran ship, Aegis Eternum, Captain Reese stood before the central command screen, arms crossed, his expression cold and steady. His crew worked in silence, not from fear, but out of respect for what they had just done. Any word from the remaining fleets? Reese asked. Lieutenant Yara shook her head. No transmissions. They've all gone silent. Reese gave a single nod. Let them stay silent. They made their choice. With eerie calm, across hundreds of systems, worlds were now silent. No ships dared approach. Humanity had done what no other species believed possible. They had faced a 10-empire alliance, and won. But the story wasn't over yet. Sir Yara spoke again, this time with unease. We're receiving a tight beam transmission. Unknown origin. High encryption. Reese turned slowly. Put it through. Audio only. A voice crackled through the bridge. It was old, calm, and full of hidden weight. Captain Reese of Earth, you have done what none dared. Everyone on the bridge froze. The voice continued. Return to your system. Do not chase further vengeance, or you will awaken them. Who are you? Reese asked, eyes narrowing. We are what lies beneath forgotten stars, the voice replied. We watched when the first light was born. We saw the first warship burn. You think you know power, but you have only just knocked on the door. The transmission cut off. For a moment, no one moved. Then Commander Ellis whispered, that wasn't from any species we know. That, ... wasn't even biological. Reese stared into the screen. Log it. Mark the location. Set course home. But Sir Yara protested. We need to return, Reese said firmly, not out of fear. We are? That's enough for now. Back on Earth, news of the human victory spread like fire. Entire alien populations rioted in panic. Some empires collapsed under fear. Others tried to erase their records for us, what they had done, but it was too late. Humanity had recorded everything. The betrayals, the ambush, the declaration of extermination, and the response. The Terran counterstrike that left 10 armadas in ruins. Now, no one could pretend it never happened. On the lunar broadcast station, General Hale addressed the galaxy. You came to our doorstep, he said, his voice sharp. You mocked us, threatened us, declared us unworthy of the stars. We offered peace, you answered with war. Now you see what happens when Earth is pushed too far. The signal reached billions. And across the stars, a new fear was born, not of war, not of death, but of humans who fought without breaking, without mercy, without forgetting. Something else had begun to move. In a dead sector beyond any known system, old signals woke. Ancient constructs, buried deep within failed stars, stirred. 1,000 glowing eyes opened in the black. The voice that had warned Reese had not been lying. The Terran victory had echoed too loudly, and now, things older than time had heard it. In the outer orbit of the Terran system, Reese watched the screen again. A single probe they'd sent to investigate the unknown signal had returned, but its data, ... was corrupted, almost burned. What did it see? Ellis asked. Reese replied, not what, who. The screen showed strange shaped stark spires rising from gas giants. Massive beings made of shadow and energy. Silent fleets, not powered by reactors but by something else. Something unnatural. We've stepped into something ancient, Reese said quietly. And it's watching us now, Yara whispered. We survived 10 empires. Can we survive this? Reese didn't answer right away. Then he turned to his crew and said, we won't run. We prepare. Earth stands ready. Weeks passed. The stars remained still, but Earth was not idle. Every human colony, every shipyard, every hidden station began working day and night. New battleships were constructed faster, smarter, deadlier, orbital. It prepared for something worse, something beyond war, something cosmic. The Galactic Council, or what was left of it, sent a delegation to Earth. They arrived in small, unarmed ships, humble and silent. Reese met them in orbit, the Varkith speaker. Knelt before him, we surrender, not out of fear, but out of shame. Reese said nothing. The Krellan diplomat added, we offer technology, secrets, anything. We want peace. Still, Reese said nothing. Then the Loran representative, a species older than most stars, stepped forward. You should not have done it, he he said quietly. "You should not have awoken the sky." Reese finally spoke. It was already awake. "We just made it look this way." The Loren shivered. "Then we are already dead." In the cold space beyond the Terran system, sensors detected a shift, a ripple in gravity, a pulse in the void, and then nothing. For now. Back on Earth, children played under the stars. Soldiers stood watch. Scientists worked harder than ever. Reese returned to Earth. Walking alone through the ruins of old cities, now being rebuilt, he saw hope, strength, unity, and he knew the galaxy had changed. Humanity had proved one thing: they were not to be underestimated. They would not be prey again. They would not bend. Again, they were not monsters, but when pushed, they could silence the stars in deep space. Something waited. It did not fear humanity, but it was curious. For the first time in 1 billion years,